Wednesday. Here we are on the Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Tyler and Caroline here with you. And Tyler, so much to celebrate because 7-3 win over the Anaheim Ducks. Yeah. Goals scored by Foegele, Hyman, Kane, Ryan, Puljujarvi, and 2 for Draisaitl. 4 straight wins and another game where the Oilers found a way to bounce back after not having the best start.
Yeah, you can see right there all the guys that found the back of the net in that game, and it was the Ducks going up 2-0 early. But I thought Edmonton looked good. Like, you go to the first period, Connor McDavid had like 3 breakaways. He ended that period with 6 shots on goal. I thought the Ducks looked really sloppy as well. Like, they weren't great in transition. They were turning over a lot of pucks. Oilers go down 2-0. If you live bet them, like, I don't know, maybe someone on this show did, you're probably feeling pretty good about yourselves. But you could tell in that game, like, even though the Oilers were losing, it felt like they were doing a lot of things right, especially at 5-on-5. They didn't get a couple of saves on the penalty kill, but something producer Liam was pointing out before the show, Mike Smith was like 20 of 21 at even strength. Like, he played really well at even strength. The Oilers dominated at even strength as well. 5-on-5 shots in that game were 31-21 for Edmonton. A great 5-on-5 game for the Oilers, and they pick up another 2 points, which was a big 2 points as well, because Anaheim right there in the standings.
The craziest thing for me to think about right now is how different this team looks in the span of 7 days. Like, wow, what a week has done for the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
And again, things that obviously need to be improved upon and things that obviously need to be addressed. But if you're looking at it from a fan perspective, we got to be so happy.
Yeah, you do. Like, they're playing a really motivated style of hockey right now. The 11 forward 7D thing seems to be working just phenomenally. They just look like they're playing looser. Looks like they're having more fun. And this is something a couple of guys have even talked about off the ice and in their press conferences, that there is a different feel here to how they're winning these hockey games.
Well, you mentioned that, Tyler. It's a perfect segue into Derek Ryan, 4 points in his last 4 games. And he said after the last game against the Ducks that he thinks a lot of the success is attributed to the fact that everyone has been given the chance and opportunity to help, and that the Oilers can't always rely on someone like Draisaitl or McDavid. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And when other players have had this chance and opportunity, look, 2 goals for Draisaitl against the Ducks, 2 assists for Connor McDavid. A team as a whole is been playing unbelievably well. 7 players had multi-point nights against the Ducks. This is just everything we've been wanting to see for months now, and it's all coming together again. You guys know my favorite theme. It is consistency, so they have to keep doing this. But right now, you got to be happy.
And when you compare this 4-game winning streak to the 4-game winning streaks we kind of saw earlier in the season as well, it's totally different because they're winning games and getting bailed out by their play at 5-on-5. Earlier in the year, it would be they get caved at 5-on-5 and then they find a way because their power play scores twice or something like that, and that's how they were winning. But you go back to this 4-game streak, and at 5-on-5, they're outscoring the opposition 14-3 in these games. Like, they're playing so well at even strength. They're getting goals from this third line, which has been phenomenal with Foegele, Ryan, and Nugent Hopkins as well. There's a lot of things to really, really like, and the things that are struggling, like the power play and the penalty kill, I'm still actually pretty confident that those will come around at some point as well. Another thing, goaltending's been great, .953 save percentage in these 4 games. Part of that is just the goalies actually playing well, as you can see here. Part of it as well is, I think, just the extra little bit of aggressive play at the blue lines. They're stopping odd man rushes or any sort of rushes before they can really get going, and they're actually making life easier on their goalies as well, which is a big thing.
I love it. I have Joe here in the Facebook chat saying, I think the addition of Kane has really helped. We have missed the toughness aspect. We speak to this a lot on our Giant pregame show since Kane has joined. I made it very clear, when this first happened, I had my reservations. I wasn't sure. Was this the guy? We knew what Kane could do on the ice in the box. He could check off on the ice, but was he the guy to have in the locker room? But he has just absolutely killed this opportunity so far for the Edmonton Oilers, and everyone has to be happy with what they've been seeing from Kane.
Yeah, you have to be thrilled. 4 goals, 4 assists in 9 games. Like, he's almost a point-a-game guy since joining this lineup, and he's also averaging, 2 or 3 scrums a game? Yeah. Like, you go back to the last one, there was the one at the end of the period with Troy Terry. There was one behind the net in the second or third period as well. He gets under the skin of the opposition better than anyone else on the Oilers does. And the other the other impressive part about that is he's often not the guy going to the box. Like, he got a penalty for punching Lemieux or whatever.
I love that.
But in that Ducks game, he was starting scrums and not getting penalties for them either, which was impressive as well. Like, this is a guy, he's bringing them an element up front that they didn't have before. And again, long term, like, I still wouldn't really have a conversation about re-signing this guy in the offseason or anything, because you got to remember his history. But as a short-term fix and a short-term addition to this lineup, it's fit like a glove.
Absolutely agree, Tyler. And let's talk about the Bison King right now, because he scored his 12th goal of the season against the Anaheim Ducks, but he's out with injury for 3 to 4 weeks, according to Jason Gregor. Tyler, this sucks. You know what, guys, I'm going to fill you in. I went to Elk Island for the very first time yesterday with the ladies and from Explore Edmonton and Kennedy from Oilers Nation. Keep an eye out for that content coming out. But we did not see one bison, and I heard that that's unheard of. And I have a feeling it's because Puljujärvi's injured, and they're all coming to Edmonton to make him feel better.
It's a big loss for the Oilers. Like, Puljujärvi's an important piece to that top nine, whether he's riding shotgun with McDavid or Draisaitl, whether he's playing on that third line. He does a lot of things right for this hockey team, and for him to be out, you know, not just 3 or 4 games, like an entire month. And the injury came on a play that was just super weird as well. Like, he scored on the play, and it looked so innocent, but, I mean, a knee tweak is a knee tweak. You know, they need this guy in the lineup, and it definitely is a big hit to their depth on the right side when you remove him from this lineup as well. But their depth has been so good recently that I think this is still an injury that they can overcome.
Well, hopefully Puljujärvi's back in the lineup, and we wish him a speedy recovery right now. Let's quickly talk about Connor and Dry. 68 points on the season for both of them, obviously league leading, and Draisaitl league leading with 35 goals. 2 best players in the world right now, surrounded by a team that's also in this last week able to produce points around them. Right now, this sounds like a pretty dangerous opponent for other teams to be considering with the Edmonton Oilers. You got to be a little bit fearful maybe now when you play the Edmonton Oilers if they keep this up.
Yeah, I mean, Draisaitl and McDavid, hopefully they keep getting hot. Draisaitl's got 6 goals in 10 games here. We saw earlier in the season when those guys kind of, you know, go to that supernova level, they can single-handedly win you games. The great thing about right now is they're not single-handedly winning the Oilers hockey games, right? It is that depth that's really coming through, but you know, there's ebbs and flows to this kind of stuff in the season, and there will come a point where things dip off production-wise from the bottom 6 and that third line, who the Twitch chat is joking, you know, the new perfection line with Fogle, Ryan, and Nuge. That production will dip off. But when it does, if the Oilers' power play heats up at the same time and McDavid and Draisaitl get back to that October-November production that we saw, then the Oilers are going to be able to keep racking up wins. And, you know, going 7-2-1 every 10 games maybe won't be as unsustainable as we think it is.
A perfect storm. All right, quickly before we move on to the opposition report, Mike Smith with 27 saves on the night tonight. It will be Koskinen in between the pipes. We'll get to the lines in just a second. But this is Koskinen's first game back since COVID protocol. Do we like him in between the pipes against the Jets?
Yeah, I saw Genesis went sigh. Why is Koski starting? I don't love the choice to go with Koskinen tonight.
Same.
Like, you have back-to-back games. Sunday, tomorrow, that's a tougher matchup. Minnesota's one of the best teams in the league. I get that you're on home ice, but Sunday is a tougher matchup than this one here on the road. If your goal... I want to guarantee 2 points, I think, is the way I would have looked at this. And I think the better chance to get 2 points is this afternoon against Winnipeg. And so I would have gone with my number 1, Mike Smith, in this game, and I would have saved Koskinen for tomorrow. But this is maybe more of what you'd look at as an all-or-nothing approach. Right? Like, if you win tonight with Koskinen, then suddenly you're back on home ice tomorrow with your number 1 starting, second of back-to-backs, and you're maybe sitting there going, all right, maybe we can take all 4 and we can run this winning streak to 6 games. I just think it's a little bit risky. I would have gone Smith in the first half, Koskinen in the second half. But let us know what you think as well, and we'll share some opinions on that. I don't know. I don't have like a huge problem with it. Like, I'm hoping it doesn't cost them the game or anything like that. But I just personally would have gone with Mike Smith.
Absolutely agree. And guys, yes, please, as Tyler said, please go off in the comments. We're checking every single thing. Comments, questions, hot takes, you name it, we're going to read it. All right, Tyler, ready to move on the opposition report? Presented by Jägburger.
Yeah, let's do it up.
Obviously, tonight, the Oilers or today, in less than an hour, the Oilers are taking on the Winnipeg Jets, 22-18-8, coming off of 2 wins against the Wild and the Kraken. Jets sitting close to the bottom of the Central Division with Kyle Connor and Scheifele leading the way for the team. Kyle Connor, obviously I was talking to Tyler and producer Liam off camera, one of my favorite players in the league. Right now, 28 goals, 25 assists with 53 points in 48 games played. He's a guy that the Oilers will need to shut down and obviously keep a close eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle Connor is dangerous right now. I'll have his numbers in just a second. This Jets team sitting outside of a playoff spot right now, and they're facing some pressure because if they don't turn this thing around, they're likely going to be settlers at the deadline. And guys like Kopp and Stastny and maybe even a Brendan Dillon, they're going to be moved off this roster. And I think even bigger changes could come in the offseason. But for the time being, they're going to be desperate to start racking up some wins here, and they'll be on home ice as well, where they're a pretty good team going 13-9-1. Right now, they are sitting 5 points back of the LA Kings for the final playoff spot, and they only have 1 game in hand as well on the LA Kings. So they got to start winning. Like I said, desperate team in Winnipeg. And for the Oilers, I mean, you're playing well, but this is going to be a tough matchup. The Oilers are going through a really, really tough stretch right here. Like, you get Winnipeg today, obviously, Minnesota, like we said, tomorrow, and then next week you go Tampa, Florida, Carolina. Like, you play 5 really, really good teams in a row. This is going to be a tough test for them.
Okay, before we get into our lines, we got some real good comments here in the Facebook chat from Brandon. We'll go Koskinen can beat the Jets today. Joey says Koski plays better when he's pushed by Smith playing better. Expect a good game from Mikko. Richard said Koskinen was playing pretty solid hockey before his COVID break. I'm comfortable with him between the pipes for today's game. And you know what? I agree. I think my biggest issue is that we always have such a question mark around goaltending. Yeah. There's always an issue. There's always a comment. There's always a concern. I think that the goaltending needs to be more consistent, more sound, and I think that that's obviously something that the Oilers will need to address in the near future. But I have always said I'm rooting for Mikko Koskinen. I just hope that today between the pipes he has a solid game because he's going to need one.
Yeah, and to be fair, like whoever pointed out that Koskinen was playing good before COVID, he was. Like, it was 5 straight games where he didn't give up more than 3 goals. It was 3-3, 2-2, and 3. A .925 or better save percentage in 3 of those 5 games as well. But like Genesis was saying, like I'd rather just lock down the 2 points today with my better guy. And if Koskinen plays well tomorrow against Minnesota, then yeah, maybe you still would have a chance to win on home ice. Lights out. Intrigued to see Mikko behind the new D scheme, which is interesting.
Everyone's rooting for Mikko. It's good to hear you guys have your takes too, because maybe we talk too much sometimes.
Yeah. Bruce says everyone's talking bad on Mikko, but didn't call out Smith for that Anaheim game. He should have saved every goal. I agree with that. I talked about that on Oilers Nation Radio too. Like, those 2 deflections, I get that they're deflection goals. Smith should have stopped both of them. The only reason the Oilers were behind in that hockey game is because Smith couldn't stop a puck on the penalty kill. So that's a fair point as well. Like, Smith isn't coming off a great game either. So yeah, maybe we're making this a bigger conversation than it needs to be.
Honestly, I just think about, I don't know if it was the last time we played the Jets or the second last time, but Stuart Skinner had a monster game in net, and I remember being fully on board with Stuart Skinner after that game at home here in Edmonton.
It should be Stuart Skinner starting tonight.
It should be Stuart Skinner. So that's where I am. I'm Team Skinner right now. Anyways, let's move on from the goaltending. Let's go to the lines for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, let's get into this here. The Jets are pretty banged up right now. Like, reading off their injury list, Nick Ehlers is going to miss this one. Andrew Kopp's not going to play. Cole Perfetti. They're basically missing 3 pretty key contributors in their top 9. But the top line for Winnipeg has been what's rolling lately. Shifley, Wheeler, and Stastny. Shifley, 6 goals, 4 assists in his last 5 games. Wheeler, 3 goals, 8 assists in his last 5 games. The second line is Pierre-Luc Dubois with Evgeny Svechnikov and the aforementioned Kyle Connor on the left side. Kyle Connor, 28 goals on the season. He's so good.
So good.
Adam Lowry with Christian Vesalainen and Christian Reichel is the third line. Dominic Toninato with Austin Poganski and Jansen Harkins is your fourth line. The D pairings for the Jets are Morrissey with DeMello, Dillon with Pionk, Logan Stanley with Nate Schmidt. And starting between the pipes, we are expecting it to be Connor Hellebuck, who has a 2.81 goals against average and a .913 save percentage on the season. Not vintage Connor Hellebuck numbers by any standard, but he also has been facing a lot of high-danger chances. This Jets team has hung him out to dry on a lot of occasions as well, so that's something the Oilers obviously will need to take advantage of.
And for the Edmonton Oilers, 45 minutes away from game time, people.
Yeah. Well, we will have a better idea when they take to the ice for warm-ups. All we know from head coach Jay Woodcroft is that Koskinen is starting, Benson is in, and Perlini is in. So I would imagine that means Devin Shore is coming out if they're going to stick with the 11-7 approach. If they go 12-6, a more traditional approach to this game, then maybe you see Devin Shore stay in and someone like Philip Broberg come out of the lineup. But the top 6 we are expecting, again, 16, 17 minutes away or 15 minutes away from warm-ups here, so we'll have a better idea then. But McDavid with Hyman and Yamamoto, Draisaitl with Kane and McLeod is how they ended the last game. You're not breaking up Nuge, Fogle, Ryan. The fourth line will have Perlini and Benson as your wingers. And then the D pairings, Nurse with Barry, Lagesson, Ceci, Broberg, Bouchard, Niemelainen's going to be mixed in there. Who knows what they'll do with those 7 defensemen. It's working well, though, and hopefully it continues to work well. I think it's something they can roll kind of long-term until they get to the deadline and maybe add a defenseman, either it's left, whether it's left side, right side, whatever. I think 7D and 11 forwards really, really works well with the personnel that the Oilers have, and I'd love to see them keep it going in both games of this back-to-back.
I'm just loving seeing Perlini back. Because I think before he missed a couple of the last few games, he was He's kind of on a run, wasn't he, Tyler? Maybe I'm losing it a little, but
no, you're not. Like, it really didn't make sense why this guy wasn't playing more. In his last 5 games, he had 3 goals.
Yes, that's exactly it. I was like, he was kind of on Lamborghini Perlini had the wheels on, and he was on fire.
But that's why I think he works well in an 11-7 approach as well. Like, if you're going to play him on the 4th line with Devin Shore as his centerman, I don't think you're putting Perlini or Tyler Benson, for that matter, in a spot to succeed. If you have Perlini and Benson, and their centerman is always going to be one of Draisaitl, McDavid, Nugent-Hopkins, or McLeod, because they're just rolling through players with the 11-7 approach, then all of a sudden you're giving Perlini and Benson 2 guys who are pretty good offensively. I know Benson still hasn't scored yet. It'll come, but Perlini scores goals. You're putting them with a playmaking, skilled centerman every time they're on the ice, and all of a sudden you don't just have 3 scoring lines. You really have 4 lines who the Jets need to keep an eye on at all times. So, maybe you lose a little bit defensively by playing Brendan Perlini over a guy like Devin Shore. But at the end of the day, I think you get a better chance to score goals. And Perlini, like, he's been good this year. He's scoring when he's been in the lineup. So I like this choice to put him back in, and I would like it even more if they stick with the 11-7 approach.
All right, Tyler, what is your bet of the game presented by PointsBet?
Yeah, the Oilers, before we get to that, they are favorites in this hockey game. They come into this one at -125 on the money line. The Jets are +105. Edmonton +185 on the puck line. In between that, they are +115 to win this game in regulation. Over-under is set at 6.5 in this hockey game as well. They did hit the under last time they played the Jets. That was that big Stuart Skinner game at Rogers Place where he played so well. For my bet of the game, there were a few spots that I was considering in this one, but I'm actually going to be taking the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins shot prop in this hockey game. It's set at 2.5. It's paying pretty well. You can probably find it at plus money. What do we got it at here? It's -118, but 2.5 is a good number for Nugent-Hopkins. He seems to be hitting this on a pretty consistent mark. 3 in a row, 4 of his last 5. I like the Nugent-Hopkins shot prop as we look to pick up a win in our bet of the game.
All right, I hope you guys all cash out today, but let's quickly mention the Nation Vacation, and then everyone's getting ready for the game. Make some nachos, whatever you do on game day, but Nation Vacation coming up, and it's in Nashville.
Yeah, we're heading out to Nashville. I need to pull up the dates in front of me really quickly.
Okay, as you do that, I'm going to read out some comments because we're getting some love, Tyler, and I like it when we get positive comments from Terrence on the Facebook chat. Caroline and Tyler, you rock, and I'm going to extend that to producer Liam behind the scenes too because he is the unsung hero.
Graphics looking good today, Liam.
Yeah, the graphics look real good.
Nation Vacation, April 12th is when we'll have our watch party there. We go there 12th to the 16th is when we're in Nashville. If you head to our Oilers Nation Instagram page, we got some info in our bio there. But basically, you get 4 nights accommodation. We're doing a watch party on the 12th for the Oilers game. And then the Oilers play themselves on the 14th. So when you buy into the trip, you get access to our watch party. You get tickets to the game at Bridgestone Arena down in Nashville. We're going to have a great time. I'll be there. You'll be there?
I think so. I don't know. I still have to decide.
Who knows? Who knows? But all the usual cast of characters around the nation will be there. It's presented by our friends at New West Travel. It'll be a good time, and we do have like super limited spots as well. So don't wait would be my advice to you because people are already buying in. This thing is already filling up, and it'll be a good time down in Nashville. Have you ever been to Nashville?
Never.
I've never been either.
Never. I always say Vegas to me is like a good 2 days. After 2 days, I'm done. But I feel like Nashville's more my place because I love the country music.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I know Liam's a big country music guy, so he's going to try to get himself into this trip too.
Liam, what's your favorite country song? I put him on the spot, guys.
He absolutely does not have one. But whether you're a country fan or not, Nashville will be fun.
All right, guys, this has been your giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Enjoy the game. We are 40 minutes away, and Tyler and I will be back here tomorrow with producer Liam. So see you then.